Having an amazing Sunday, and I just wanted to get on here and just talk a little bit about UFC because the next few weeks of UFC and really the stretch from the beginning of September all the way to the end of October in the UFC is extremely exciting as we are now entering the fourth quarter of the year and approaching the end of the UFC's ESPN era and going into the new era of the Paramount deal, the $7.7 billion deal that will have the UFC put on a whole new way of entertainment with the promotion. But until then, we still have these last couple events of the year, and it all starts in the beginning of September. We just wrapped up UFC Shanghai. I couldn't believe it, but Zhang Minyang lost to Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker finished him with some nasty leg kicks, and TKO finished him. So that was really sad to see how Zhang Minyang, so quickly of a prospect, got beaten by a guy like Johnny Walker. But anyways, not really caring about the UFC Shanghai fight, just kind of moving ahead. And the main thing I want to talk about in this video is UFC 320. Because UFC 320 just got even more stacked with a new fight added. But before that, I get into UFC 320, I just wanted to quickly do an overview of what we have in the next couple weeks of the UFC. So, of course, you got UFC Paris, right? With Imavov Baralio, Ruffy versus Benoit Saint-Denis. They just added Pitbull versus this new guy. Actually, I don't even know if he's on the site yet, but listen, this card is actually a really great card in UFC Paris. The co-main and main are sick. They have Pitbull versus this new guy on there. They got Farezian, William Gomez, all the good French fighters. And then you go into UFC Mexico. The only fight you really got to know about this is the main event, Gene Silva versus Lopez. Gene Silva is going to make it a fun entertainment fight with the barking, everything. A really intriguing striking matchup between these two. Personally, I think Gene Silva is going to outdog Lopez. He just has that X factor. He's crazy, but again, this is a great top-level fight in the featherweight division. Nothing else on that card is really for me to get into, but then you have Olberg versus Reyes in Australia. Who else do we have on this card? More to be announced, honestly. They got to buff up this card a little bit more, but yeah. They got that on Australia. Then UFC 320, which we're going to get into in a minute. Absolutely loaded card. Oliveira versus Viziev in Brazil. We could expect Carlos Prates to be on this card as well. They just added Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. Great bantamweight fight. Luque versus Ponzinibbio. Vitor Petrino. And to be determined more on that. And then UFC Vancouver, another sick middleweight fight just weeks after the Paris fight. Whoever puts on the most show-stopping performance is getting that next title shot versus Hamza. To Ritter versus Hernandez. Holland versus Mike Malott. And then, yeah, Chito Vera versus Zahabi. So, really exciting main event and a couple other cool fights. More to be added on that card. And then UFC Abu Dhabi. They always go crazy in Abu Dhabi. Tom Aspinall versus Gane is, honestly, what we're all anticipating with this matchup is for Tom Aspinall to smoke through Cyril Gane, but you never know. And apparently Umar Nurmagomedov probably is going to be the co-main event on this card. He said that he is now fighting on that card. You got Volkov versus Almeida, Rakic versus Mirzakhanov. And then I'm expecting, so they're gonna put Umar on here, probably versus Mario Batista, and then maybe, just maybe, they could put Arman and Paddy. Please put something like that on this card as well. You put Arman and Paddy, this card needs a fight like that to really make it stick out as it's already an amazing card, but that would put it over the top. So yeah, that's kind of what we got for the next couple of weeks. And of course, more fights to be announced. There's some rumors circulating right now that Shavkat versus Sean Brady could be happening in UFC Qatar. And that would be a crazy fight as well. But actually, his manager, Shavkat's manager, came out and said that there's no way that's happening in November. So maybe that is fake news. But yeah, time to get on to UFC 320. We're still over a month away from this card, so I figured I'd kind of just give like an early preview video about it now, and then we could talk about it, of course, when fight week arrives. But UFC 320 is by far the best card we are getting this year, and I'm loving that the UFC is beefing it up like this because it will be over a month between pay-per-views. Did not end up getting a pay-per-view in September, but now there are 2 pay-per-views in October, honestly, which makes October super stacked. And you got 2 title fights on here. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira, the rematch, which needed to happen. Super close fight back in March. Of course, we lost one of our favorite high-level champions in Alex Pereira. Did he fall off? I don't know. I have a feeling he'll become relevant again once we lead up to this matchup. But once he lost to Magomed Ankalaev after this crazy run that he was on, we haven't heard much about him lately. You got Merab putting on one of the greatest bantamweight resumes of all time, looking for a routine title defense in Cory Sandhagen. But can Cory Sandhagen pull it off and get the upset? More about that. Sick, crazy feature fight, Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree. They had Apache Mix on here versus this newcomer in Jacob Wilklaz. Joe Pyfer versus Abus Magomedov. Joe Pyfer is great on the mic, honestly. He's got like that New Jersey kind of, I don't know, Rough Rider personality to him. Atiba Gutierrez, sick prospect from Cameroon. And then, it's not on here, but they just added Josh Emmett, hard-hitting featherweight versus Yusuf Zalal, who has been on a crazy, nice win streak. And that is also, that just puts the icing on the cake with this. This card was already super, stacked, really. And then they just put on another really great high-level featherweight fight between 2 guys that could very well be a fight night main event or a co-main event, main event probably, in Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Zalal. So yeah, this is just an absolutely insane card that we are getting at the beginning of October in Las Vegas between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. And I'm just going to say it again. Initial impressions about this fight, I'm feeling like Alex Pereira is going to be beaten more decisively by Magomed Ankalaev. I just think Magomed Ankalaev, in their first fight, of course, we were waiting for Alex Pereira to turn it up. We were waiting for the big striking moments, the hard-hitting shots, possibly a left hook that could send Magomed Ankalaev to the mat, and that we could have Alex Pereira on this crazy run. But honestly, if Alex Pereira can pull it off and bounce back and beat Magomed Ankalaev in the rematch, then I just see that honestly as an even bigger, like, of course, it's a stain on the legacy that he lost to Magomed, but if he could just get him in the rematch, knowing how close that first fight was, and then he gets it back and reclaims that light heavyweight championship, that would mean his 3rd time claiming a title, right? He claimed the middleweight, then he claimed light heavyweight, and then he'll claim light heavyweight again, and then possibly make a move to heavyweight to set up a super fight versus Tom Aspinall. So, but I just think that Magomed Ankalaev, as bland as he is as a fighter and his personality, he has that grappling style to back him up on. Although he couldn't have any success in the takedowns with Alex Pereira. That was one of the most surprising things to me about the fight. He was standing up with Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev was standing up with Alex Pereira, and he wasn't really shooting many takedowns. And even the takedowns he did shoot, Alex Pereira was defending most of them. In the beginning of that fight, Alex Pereira had it where he needed it to go, to the striking, where we thought that he was superior and he had the advantage. But yeah, I just feel like Magomed Ankalaev is going to try to be more, I don't know. But hopefully Alex Pereira will also be more aggressive in this fight, knowing what he did in his past fight, and hopefully make it back. And because I need this. I need Alex Pereira to reclaim this belt in this division. And just, if he loses again, can Alex Pereira potentially retire? Maybe. The guy's 38 years old. I think he's the same age as John Jones. And we all forget that he started kind of later in the UFC in his career, but of course went on the insane run that he did, going into middleweight, beating Israel Adesanya. Then he lost to Israel Adesanya, but then came back into the light heavyweight division and went on the run versus Jan Blachowicz, beat Erie, beat Jamal Hill, beat Erie again, and then beat Khalil Roundtree. An insane light heavyweight resume. Alex Pereira is definitely one of the greatest fighters to ever do it. But if he loses this back-to-back versus a guy like Magomed Ankalaev, it might be time for Alex Pereira to hang up the gloves. Of course, I wouldn't want him to hang up the gloves. I think he should continue to compete. I love to see him in the sport, but what else is there for Alex Pereira? Maybe he makes a move to heavyweight. Maybe that's his last item in his quest. Win or lose, move up to heavyweight and try to conquer there and become one of the rare fighters to get a belt in 3 different divisions. That would be sick. So this is just my initial thoughts on the upcoming fight between Magomed and Ankalaev and Alex Pereira in the rematch. I'm obviously really, really hoping that Alex Pereira can go out there and knock this dude out. I definitely could see it, but I think overall Magomed Ankalaev is going to win more decisively and just continue to be the bland champion that he is. Because honestly, you don't really hear about Magomed Ankalaev much in his title reign so far. Since he's been champion, he hasn't really been talked about that much. So, yeah. And then you have under the card, just to skip over the co-main event for a second, Khalil Roundtree versus Yuri Prochazka. Clearly the number one contenders fight for the main event. And of course, this is great because if one of the guys in the main event pulls out, Yuri Prochazka is that next guy up. And that would be really great of a fight to see if Magomed versus Yuri. I don't know if Pereira versus Yuri 3 would be so sick, but yeah, Prochazka's ready to step in. Prochazka, as we know, lost to Pereira, but then he bounced back versus Jamal Hill with a great finish, fully connected. And Khalil Roundtree, too. These guys are both coming off wins versus Jamal Hill. Khalil Roundtree with a 5-round statement performance. 5 rounds versus Jamal Hill with his Muay Thai style. This is going to be a great striking fight, but I just think Yuri Prochazka, the wild man that he is, knowing how he uses his elbows and everything, I have a feeling Yuri Prochazka is going to go out there. Because Yuri Prochazka is on a different level than Jamal Hill. So Khalil Roundtree's got that power. He's put some dudes to some serious sleep. But yeah, Yuri Prochazka, I got him in this fight. And it's just so sick to see Yuri Prochazka as a featured fight on this card. Now back to the co-main event. Can Cory Sandhagen pull it off? Can Cory, the Sandman Sandhagen, pull it off? He's finally getting his title shot versus Merab Dvalishvili. He not begged the UFC, but like he saw like, yeah, this is my time now to get the title shot. I just beat Figueiredo pretty decisively, popped his leg in the leg lock. He was one win away from that title shot had he beaten Umar Nurmagomedov. So that stepped it back a little bit for him. But Cory Sandhagen, we don't necessarily, he's very unpredictable, right? Merab, right now, everyone's going to be saying it's Merab. He's going to overwhelm Cory Sandhagen like he's been overwhelming everyone. Super competitive fight with Umar. Basically beat Sean O'Malley more decisively in the rematch. He just is a cardio machine. Just, this dude enjoys fighting, clearly. He's just constantly competitive and active, Merab. And yeah, if Cory Sandhagen has like some kind of cool tricks up his sleeve, like a flying knee, or decides to try what he did on Figueiredo, I don't think he's going to have the same kind of success on Merab like he did with Figueiredo. But Cory Sandhagen, he has a little more of that explosive factor. I feel like he could do a little more than what Sean O'Malley did in both fights that Sean O'Malley had versus Merab. So, I don't know. We've seen Cory Sandhagen with some vicious, just nasty finishes. Would it be so crazy if he could get one of those type of, like, Leon Edward type moments versus Merab? Going into, like, that 5th round, Merab's just been dancing on him all the entire fight. All of a sudden, Sandhagen, boom, pulls out some knee. Or, like, I don't know. Cory Sandhagen, I'm not fully counting him out, but I feel just like Merab, it's another routine to title defense. But again, we're just pushing Cory Sandhagen in there because he is a new fresh face, new fresh matchup. I think he has done enough to deserve it, especially when there's nobody else around. And we should definitely throw in Jan as like a backup for this fight also. So we have both the main and co-main events secured and locked down with reassurance so that this card really has like all the layers to it. I love this as a co-main event. They really did such a great job on this card with Cory Sandhagen and Merab Dvalishvili. Patchy Mix is coming back. We got to see him. I don't even want to go too much in detail on this card, honestly. That was not the intention because I'm going to have so much more to say on Fight Week. Pyfer, heavy hands. And then just to quickly address that they just added Josh Emmett on the card versus Youssef Zalal. Sorry, all these ads keep on popping up. Yeah, Josh Emmett just lost to Lerone Murphy, who also just got basically his title shot versus Aaron Pico when he spinning elbowed him into oblivion And Yusuf Zalal, not the most statement made performance in his last fight. I think it was versus Calvin Kattar, but he's put together a pretty nice win streak as of recently. I think he got cut from the UFC and came back and ended up, yeah, it's a bunch of wins, but not really versus anyone so up there. I mean, and it's all submissions though: rear naked choke, triangle choke. So Calvin Kattar was the first guy to really go full rounds with Yusuf Zalal, but he's been finishing guys. I saw someone saying he's like the Bilal of the featherweight division. Could be. He's got, I guess, good cardio. Josh Emmett, of course, has the crazy power in his hands. Before the Leon Murphy fight, he took a long layoff, but that was after coming off the super scary and violent KO versus Bryce Mitchell, which he ended up sending Bryce Mitchell into a shaking because of how bad that KO was. So another just amazing bonus fight that they added on here. Really just amazing. So yeah, UFC 320 is just super, super loaded. And I cannot wait for this card. Even all the prelims and fights are really good. Wow, what a card, man. So that's UFC 320, still over a month away. But I can't wait to talk more about it when we get closer to it. And yeah, those are just my thoughts. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about these two title fights between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira, and Cory Sandhagen versus Merab. And until next time.